The best leaders in the world have all mastered one skill, and today I'm going to share exactly how you can do this too. We're talking about not being a self-centered leader. This is hands down one of the most impactful tips that you'll get for your leadership journey, and it may surprise you when you actually reflect on it, how you could be showing up as maybe a little bit self-centered in your leadership. At its core, self-centered leadership means that you're really just placing yourself right at the center of all the decisions, goals, and conversations that you're having in your role. It means that you're prioritizing your own needs and your own perspectives above everybody else. And you only have to think about that for just a second to realize how detrimental that can be for your leadership. A true leader should be prioritizing the needs of the company and, most importantly, the needs of your team well above your own self-interest. When a leader is self-centered, it shows up in a few key ways. Maybe they monopolize conversations, only really talking about their own needs and feelings. They might shut down the needs and feelings of others and make big decisions without involving the team, or constantly seek credit for all of the success, teamwork or not. Now, there have definitely been times early in my leadership career where I struggled with this one. I genuinely felt like my own goals and my career were more important than what I was actually hired for. When I actually reflected on it, I realized that I actually steamrolled people just a little bit to get what I thought was right. I had my directive or marching orders and I was gonna follow through. And while that might have made me valuable in some ways, particularly to my leadership team, it absolutely impacted my ability to show up as a real leader to my team. I sometimes lost sight of the people when I was really aiming for the goal, and that is something that I genuinely regret. I had my own blinders on, focusing solely on the outcome that I was going for, whereas I would have been much better spent actually getting some buy-in and time with my team. A leader's core goal should be focused on the development and lifting up of their team. You don't want to be a leader who believes that their own goals are more important than the team's or even the company's. My struggle highlighted to me that I lost people along the way when I was striving for that as my goal. I've also seen other leaders struggle. Some are so focused on earning their individual credit or bonus that they lose sight of what's happening with the wider team and the impact that those decisions that they're making could be having. I think we've all seen stories in the media of executives who take the massive, huge bonus while people around them are being laid off. It comes across as self-serving and greedy, and that really is self-centered leadership. It is a pretty dangerous path to walk if you can't let it go. So how do you make sure that you're not being a self-centered leader? These few tips will help you self-check yourself and monitor where exactly you fit. The first one, which sounds quite easy, but is actually a little bit tricky to master, is empowerment. Empowerment means giving your team the autonomy and the space to make their own decisions, which is ultimately about trusting their capability. Not giving people autonomy can look like a control freak or micromanager, or even hiding it behind a, "I don't think you're quite ready yet." Empowering your team means giving them the opportunity to show you that they're ready and to make mistakes without the wrath of the boss coming on their heads. The reason this ties into self-centered leadership is again because this is often aligned with thinking along the lines of, this person isn't ready and this person could potentially risk our ability as a team to achieve our goals, which is going to reflect badly on me. And you might be right. It might. And it might reflect badly on you. But if you don't give people the opportunity to try and to grow and develop, they're not going to be interested in staying with you, and you're not really showing great leadership. Some will struggle with this by not delegating. Not delegating effectively means that you're trying to do everything and control everything yourself. And I'm not going to lie, it is hard. If you've clawed your way to the top, where you're at a leadership role that has been hard fought, you don't want to risk your reputation. But believe me when I say that you are going to be risking your leadership reputation even more if you can't let go and if you can't delegate to your team. If you need some support with how to effectively delegate, make sure you check out the video linked on your screen. Don't prioritize your perceived success that others may view over truly empowering your team. The next one is about listening. There are two types of listening that are quite crucial for a leader. The first one is interpersonal listening. This is about not being self-centered, about putting yourself at the heart of what somebody else is talking about. If an employee or a team member is bringing a problem to you or describing a situation that they're dealing with, your job is to listen. It's not to tell them all about how you've already had that situation before and this is what you did. This interpersonal listening is sometimes the most important when it comes to not being a self-centered leader. This is how you make your team feel heard, respected, and valued. You are actually listening to them, not jumping in to talk all about yourself. I often see leaders also making the mistake of being too friendly with their employees. An employee might be sharing their issues, and then the leader jumps in with, "Oh yeah, that's impacting my team. This is impacting me," and then they start talking about themselves. I know it sounds terrible and like something you wouldn't do, but if you actually sit back and concentrate on being a really interpersonal listener, then you may pick up that actually you are jumping in with your own stories before somebody has finished speaking. And it pays to kind of do a bit of a self-check. If one of your team members is talking through their struggles, it is your job as their leader to listen to them. You may be thinking, this is small potatoes compared to what I'm dealing with, but this is your job. It is not their job to shoulder all of the responsibility that you have. They don't need to know that kind of impact that you've got going on in the rest of your role. They don't need to know that you're dealing with some huge crisis. You just need to listen to them. I think we all know that this is quite crucial in social situations. Talking over top of people, wading in before they finish their story, you just don't do that with your friends or when you're meeting new people. So why would you do it in your leadership role? And if you need some help with how to be a really good active listener, make sure you check out the video on your screen for some practical tips. The second type of listening that's really crucial if you don't want to be a self-centered leader is feedback. This is about actively gathering input, feedback, comments. Really, it's about other people's thoughts on your decisions. You want to make sure that other people are included in those decisions, which means seeking their feedback on what you're thinking about implementing before you do so, if you can. Not every scenario will make that possible, but if you can bring people in on the journey early, they are much more likely to adopt the new decision that you've made, even if it's unpopular. They need to understand it, they need to know the why, and they need the opportunity to be heard. Everybody wants to feel like they're included in things. If you're just making decisions, pitching it out there and saying, we've decided that this is the way we're going to go, you're not leaving room for people to give you their feedback and their thoughts. And often, if you're making decisions about things that are going to impact the people doing the work, they're actually going to have much better idea on the impact that that decision is going to have than what you are, because they're closer to it. So this is crucial if you want to make good decisions that are fully informed and include your team along the way. The third way that shows that you're not a self-centered leader is that you are sharing recognition. Recognizing other people and their contributions is incredibly powerful. This means passing on the credit to people who have contributed to things, even when you're the one that gets, "Oh, that's amazing, Nikki's team did this." Nikki's team, not Nikki. It can't be about you as a leader. It's always about the team. It's important that you acknowledge this, not just to individuals privately, but publicly too. It's good to have a good balance of making sure that people's contributions are recognised across the team. You don't want to have individuals who are working really hard quietly and doing everything they can into projects and decisions that you're making, and then you're taking all of the credit, and then even publicly not acknowledging what they've done. They'll walk away, they'll find another job, and then you lose that person that's actually a really valuable asset and contributor to your team. I think everybody has a story about a leader that they've worked for who took the credit for other people's work. It is incredibly frustrating when people are taking the credit for your work. And if your boss is taking the credit for your work, it's hard to have respect. Remember that if you're doing well in terms of your leadership and your team are making great decisions and there's projects that are being completed to a high standard, all of this highlights that you are being a good leader. You don't need to take the credit for every micro thing that happened in between that your team actually completed. Everyone knows that it's because your leadership is on point if you're achieving projects amongst the team. So give people the credit that they deserve. Another thing you can do to ensure that you're not a self-centered leader is to actively give support to your team and the people that you work with. This could be lending a helping hand. It could be making sure that people have access to training. It could be noticing when somebody seems like they're not quite their usual self and asking them, checking in on people, having regular talks, chats, meetings, whatever, with your team members so you know where they're at and you can support them. Make sure you're not box ticking this one too. We all know about organisations who the lead executives will have coffee drop-ins where members of the team can come along and talk to them about whatever they want. And so you've got people in all levels of the organisation supposedly walking into the chief executive and giving them feedback about what's going well and what's not going well. If these aren't done well, they will often lead to the people who are the most vocal about everything that happens going and telling them all of the things, or no one, because no one feels comfortable doing it. So make sure that you are being a visible leader where people are comfortable coming to you and giving you feedback, their concerns, ideas for what's happening in the workplace. This all helps contribute to the idea that you're not a self-centered leader. You're available for people. So why is it important to not be a self-centered leader? Well, hopefully those examples speak for themselves, but this can lift your team morale and create a positive work environment. Being available, listening to people, all of these things help create an environment of collaboration where people are happy to come and talk to you and you're including people in what you're doing. If you're delegating appropriately and giving people the space and opportunity to do projects themselves, you're growing them, you're developing your team, you're making it a more engaging and rewarding workspace, which also highlights that you trust your team, which is fundamental when it comes to leadership. Trust, respect, and you're going to hopefully build a sustainable, successful team. Now remember that not centering yourself or not being a self-centered leader does not mean that you become the doormat. It's about knowing how to show up, being focused on your team and the company without losing yourself. I say that particularly as a female. Sometimes we can fall into a little bit of a more maternal role where we're so busy caring about others and doing the right thing that we lose a little bit of ourselves. One struggle that I made when I was growing my leadership skills was where I kind of put too much into helping the team develop and ignored red flags as, oh, they've just got a bit of a skill gap or they just need more time into their development. You can't ignore red flags and tolerate disrespectful behaviour. I had a direct report who I was really focused on developing and promoting. I genuinely believed in her, but along the way the balance shifted. She started talking to me in a somewhat abrasive and derogatory way. She'd get really frustrated about things that I, my boss, HR, the organisation had asked her to do. I had to sit down and set a boundary with her. Not being a self-centered leader does not mean not having boundaries. While conversations should be about the other person, that doesn't mean that you never champion yourself. I prepared well for the conversation, and then I told her I need to have a talk and I need to give you some feedback. I talked about the examples, concrete examples, of her behaviour and the way that she'd spoke to me in the past and how it had landed and how I had seen it as disrespectful. And then I talked about the relationship that I thought we should be having and that I wanted us to have. She got a little spicy and frustrated, but she then admitted that she felt that the relationship that we'd built meant that we could have those kind of conversations. My response was, there's no relationship that I want to have where it's okay to be spoken to the way that you've been speaking to me. It was not my most fun conversation, but we set some pretty clear boundaries. And it did take a bit of work on myself to make sure that I wasn't going too far into the nice category and could stick to the boundaries with her and stand up for myself. And I have to say, it was successful. Setting the boundary in place and then just making sure that it wasn't pushed meant that we didn't have that kind of relationship anymore. My point is, we're adults. We can control our emotions and our behaviours. And the people that we're working with are adults too. And it's okay to call people to account to make sure that they are managing this. If you've got in a situation like this, where you do need to assert yourself in a professional way, make sure you check out the video on my screen, which gives you some practical steps that you can take to make sure that that difficult conversation is successful for you. Now, not being a self-centered leader, if you can embed it in a way in your leadership, it follows you through your career. We often talk about things like not taking things personally, learning to listen, understanding that it's not about you, but fundamentally it is the same thing. Making sure that you're not placing yourself right at the heart of your leadership, where you would be taking all these things personally. If you're a leader working on this, hopefully these tips are going to help you. And if you are noticing these kind of aspects and behaviour in other people, remember this is a core skill that you can pass along to them too. No matter where you fall on the self-centered spectrum, you can focus on 4 things in your leadership: empowerment, listening, recognition and support. Make sure that you're centering the team and the business and not yourself. But again, set boundaries and stick up for yourself. And thanks very much for watching.